911, where's your emergency?
I've just spotted what I think is a tornado.
Tornado on the ground.
They're everywhere. Tornadoes are everywhere.
I got South tornado.
East toward West Liberty.
911.
Good evening and welcome in. I'm Tom Kenny. Calamity rarely knocks before it enters. 8 years ago today, it tore down the door of communities in Kentucky as severe weather swept across the Commonwealth, killing 22 people, injuring dozens more, and causing catastrophic property damage. The small town of West Liberty took a direct hit. ABC 36 meteorologist Justin Roth went back there to talk to the survivors. This is their story, what they experienced, what they felt. This is West Liberty.
Emergency personnel, ELC is advised to go to your safe areas. Again, ELC is advised to go to your safe areas. And Incident Command will advise you where they need you.
That's not paper.
A couple days in advance of March 2nd, 2012, we already saw that conditions were going to come together for a potentially major severe weather outbreak, including potentially damaging tornadoes.
The weather was warmer than normal, and I didn't think anything was out of sorts at all, personally.
Morgan County 911, where's your emergency?
This is Sandy McKenzie, and I've just spotted what I think is a tornado over toward the Woods Bend area, and it's moving fast.
In the Woods Bend area?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's moving, though, to the east toward West Liberty.
The east towards West Liberty?
We were placed in a high risk, which is the very highest level of risk for severe weather, and they only issue usually a couple of those, a handful of those on any given year. So that's a very unusual, and especially unusual for our part of the country. Very, very unusual for our part of the country.
West Liberty Police Department, this is Heather. West Liberty Police Department, this is Heather.
My mother-in-law at the time lived up in Alexandria, so we knew there were reports that hurricane or a tornado could be going up into Alexandria or in that area. As a matter of fact, we thought we saw it right over Alexandria, and we were calling her and telling her, you need to get in the basement.
They're everywhere. They're everywhere. Tornadoes are everywhere. Oh my God.
The atmosphere was right for severe weather. The instability was there, the wind shear was there, the moisture was there, and we were very concerned.
Just get to a safe place. 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 Get to a safe place, ma'am.
We went out and walked the Old Mill Park and were just kind of joking that it seemed so calm, there wasn't anything going on here.
There were reports of people trapped in West Liberty about 45 minutes or an hour ago, and that's a really, really nasty situation there.
I would have never guessed that on a given year the longest track tornado in the United States would occur in eastern Kentucky, but on that day it did.
Tornado on the ground here at the intersection of 172 and 460.
Well, if we've gone to the basement, why not want to? All right. Now, guys, let's go. That's not clouds, that's stuff.
I look towards the street through a window from the dispatch shack, and I can see items in the air going from my right to left that shouldn't be too big to be, shouldn't be like doing that.
Coming over Wells Hill was this big, massive looking cloud. And I'm in my mind still not thinking, well, this is not a tornado. You know, tornadoes don't come into West Liberty.
I was just looking straight on at it, seeing the tornado come up over the hospital. And there were some guys that had been working out in the basement, and they're standing out there taking pictures of this thing. So I pull up and I'm talking to my wife. About that time, I said, look, see, there's a tornado, and it dropped out. So, of course, she was worried about that, but I said, boy, is that a tornado? And they just laughed and said, yeah, that's a tornado. I said, where do we need to go? And they were working out in the basement. So we all went down there. As soon as we got down in the basement, the lights went out.
The next thing I know, the electricity goes off, and I hear this roaring. It sounded like a freight train. And, you know, I have patients here. My mom's here. She was a patient that afternoon. We've got a new patient, her husband, and then 2 of my coworkers. So I ran to the back door. I looked out towards town, Main Street, and I see this huge funnel cloud, huge. And I saw it rip a piece of metal off of one of the buildings and wadded it up like a piece of paper. And this thing's coming towards me, and I'm trying to get back in the building, and I can't.
Very strong what are called rotational velocities, and that shows the rotation within the thunderstorm. And then we also got what we call a debris ball. There actually was enough debris being lifted into the air that we got radar return, a signal from that.
There it is! Right there! And while we're in the stairwell, something below us, a door or something gave away, and the tornado began to come up that stairwell. I decided I don't know what's going on down there, but I don't want to be there. So I came back upstairs, and by the time I got to this area, it was over.
The wind was so strong that I couldn't hardly move. So finally I did get back in, and we all got into the dark room in the x-ray lab. And there was 5 of us in that small closet, and I was up against the wall. I could feel the concrete blocks shaking. Finally, it was over.
When I came back to myself, I was standing 20 foot from the edge of a 100-foot drop-off. Well, I held myself up with a 2x4. And then that's when I turned around and I see my dad and grandmother, but I didn't get to see my mom because she was covered up with debris.
I'm between Eastville and Wellington.
Uh-huh.
And I got caught in a tornado or something.
Okay, are you hurt?
Yeah.
We came out. First thought was, oh my goodness, Dr. Smith. You know, I knew he was upstairs. And we got him down. First thing he said was, call somebody. I said, who do you want me to call? He said, I don't care who you call. He said, just call somebody. I don't think he ever really realized that a tornado had hit.
And I looked down to the left, and the Methodist church steeple was in the intersection. And I thought to myself, we're going to have lots of dead folks.
So we waited a couple minutes and we went out. There's my Suburban. Looks like you'd just taken a machine gun and shot it up. Smoke coming out of it, all the windows busted out. And where that place is located, you could look down over Main Street. And that's the one thing you're thinking. Is this a dream? You know, is this really happening? And it's just amazing the amount of destruction. And from there, what was in my mind was to get back to see what kind of shape my clinic's in and my family.
For me, it felt like a split second. But from the description of neighbors, it was at least, you know, a minute for it to hit us. And then that's when it took him to come over the Woods Bend area, and then hit West Liberty.
If you just talk about the wind coming through, I'm going to say a few seconds. If you're talking about panicked people coming in, you're going to add some time to that. You know, minutes total, and the seconds for the wind.
The shaking and the roaring, less than 5 minutes. It seemed like an eternity, but in reality, it wasn't that long.
That's kind of what it looked like, was the tornado debris you see in all these pictures and clips, and I thought, oh God, we have had this is what's happened. So I saw him running, and I told my wife, well, I'm going to go up here and check on Mom and Dad and Billy and, you know, it's my brother and his wife. And see what's happened.
The destruction of the property was, I guess you could call it catastrophic. It took and completely destroyed our home, destroyed my brother's home. We had 3 horses that got killed, one that was injured, and then the physical damage that it done to him, you know, not only physically but mentally. That was, I mean, it's just something that I wouldn't wish on nobody.
Based on the strong rotational velocities we saw in those storms, I actually, as terrible as the damage was, and it was devastating, I actually expected the damage to be worse than it was.
Well, I can say that Main Street was just destroyed. Buildings that had been there forever, restaurants that had been up there forever, just leveled. Commercial bank was hit hard. Christian church that my mother used to go to a long time ago was demolished. And a big thing was all the electric poles and lines, they're all down.
The last thing I remember hearing my dad say before he passed, because my dad was still alive, was that we got to find Sue, we got to find Sue, which was my mom.
Then from there, it was just unorganized folks trying to help folks. And something hours later, professionals from Jessamine County and Fayette County, we had help from Moorhead, arrived, and the professional searchers began to search.
Trailer frames, like the walls of the trailers and everything was just demolished. There was nothing. The siding was twisted up into bundles. There was tin up in trees. The trailer frames themselves was twisted, looked like, I mean, there ain't no way no mankind could have done nothing like that.
I immediately thought there's probably going to be 100 people killed in this. And I'm going to start finding out, and I'm going to start finding out people that I know are dead, because there's no way we could have. There's no way that all this destruction, and you just see the path where it went up Prestonsburg Street. I mean, this happened at 6 o'clock on a Friday. There's a lot of people in town, and there's no way there can't be 100 people killed here in this. And you just start praying.
One of our firemen jumped on a bulldozer, a little case dozer, to clear out a path from here up to the hospital without any direction. And that same fireman turned off the main gas line that was spewing.
I heard people, you know, talking around me. Heard people coming towards us. My neighbors beside of us was the first ones to us. And after that, I mean, it's all just been a big blur.
The first thing I remember hearing when I came out was silence. And then it was like reality set in for a split second, and there were people screaming, there were people crying, there was telephone poles down, electric poles, cars turned upside down, and you know, I'm standing back and I'm looking at the clinic and I'm thinking, oh my God, how will we ever recover from this?
I went into mode to help folks for what little ability I had to do to assist, but I went looking to see what I could find.
I saw the dome of the courthouse was gone. All the the stores were just in shambles, and I knew my office is going to be destroyed whenever I go down there and look at it. I went up on the south end of town, walking to the north end of Main Street, and sure enough, when I got there, it was all, it was destroyed.
Crews from the National Weather Service spent part of today in several Kentucky counties.
You know, the damage was just devastating, and the thing that was amazing was just how continuous it was. It's so different than most surveys any of us have ever been on, where it's very isolated. You have a brief tornado touchdown, or maybe a very short track tornado, but this was just continuous. And that's the reason the surveys actually took several days, because you're talking about dozens and dozens and dozens of miles of ground that these tornadoes covered.
Things that happened after we came here is we were asked to coordinate a day of work for United Methodists to come from across the state to do work here in West Liberty. And so my wife and I took responsibility for that, and we had, I think, 125 or 130 people that worked in various projects, cleanup, rebuilding, all those kinds of things, shortly after we came here.
The jailer and his wife kind of kept an eye on Dad, and we had to come back up every morning, check on that kind of stuff. He lasted about a week, and I'm guessing it's a shock of not knowing where stuff is upstairs, bathroom, bedroom, kitchen, that kind of stuff. He was just out of his element. And then both funeral homes were damaged, and it took us 2 weeks to have a funeral.
The first phrase that came to mind was it looked like a war zone. There was so much damage that was done, buildings that had been destroyed. Next door to us over here is Rite Aid Pharmacy, and that building had taken significant hit. It was back in business, but it was severely damaged. And driving, there are two major streets in West Liberty. One is Main Street and the other is Prestonsburg, and they come together as a T. And both of them sustained terrific damage, especially Main Street, and then a number of buildings on Prestonsburg as well.
Been around a lot of years, so I've had several blocks, maybe all the blocks of the NIMS training. And that did not serve me, I'm going to say, at all that night. However, I do believe that training served the others, professionals that came in to get us back on our feet. I think it was very helpful for them. But at the time when the bricks have fallen and there's nobody, there was nothing I could bring to the table to assist the community except what my two hands could and legs could do. We just didn't have, we just didn't have anything.
This is my partner and me. We salvaged our sign. We found our sign, and my wife took this picture of us as we were up there trying to dig out.
I'd imagine that the corners were not bent like that.
No, we had to kind of dig that out of under some brick.
I didn't actually lose anything that couldn't be replaced, but I did, deal with nightmares for a while after that. It's scary to go through something like that. Mother Nature can really take control.
I mean, I was hit hard, but my business, but personally, it wasn't that bad for me, and I know it was a lot harder for a lot of other people, and then you just kind of feel guilty that you can't help.
Yeah, my mom, dad, and grandmother. I mean, all the other things was material. That can be replaced, but the life of my family could not.
When we hear severe weather is on its way here in Morgan County, people get really antsy, even though it's been over 7 years since the tornado.
Yeah, it's made a big difference here. When people get weather reports, we're a whole lot more attentive to weather reports now that we know a tornado can hit here.
The only time that I really get freaked out is if the wind picks up. I can sleep through a thunderstorm now. Compared to seven and a half years ago, no, I could not.
You hear that little siren go off on the radio, you're looking and listening and watching, and yeah, you're concerned.
I think we have every app that you can download on both our phones. And still to this day, if we hear of bad weather, the last. So what'd you hear on the weather? What'd you hear?
And we just knew that this was going to take a long time, and we were just going to have to tough it out. And there's just times you just, what do you do next? Well, you just put your other foot in front of the other foot, and you just go on, because you just really don't know what to do.
Got nowhere else to go. This is home. I practiced here since 1981. I grew up upstairs. That was my residence.
This is my hometown. This is where I was raised. The town didn't give up on me, so why should I give up on the town? People come together and helped us in ways that would make you think, people really do care.
911. 911. 911. Hello? Please ring. Please God. Please God, ring. Please God. Please God, ring. Please God, ring.